We're both from small towns in the middle of the United States. The sort of small towns where like people never leave their hometowns. I gotta get the heck out of here as soon as that was something I had told him on our first date was like, I do not plan on being here, so if that's gonna be a problem for you, I think we should end it right now. Okay.
Yeah, we were originally from Missouri, and then we moved out to North Carolina and lived there for about 10 years.
It wasn't as bad as I was expecting. Again, I've lived abroad before, but like
We just we deeply
we
underestimated.
struggle a little bit with the food, I'll be
Yeah.
perfectly honest. You have to pay a fee to get the NIE number, but you can't pay the fee without the NIE number. So it's like this big circular issue.
Time. They're only open from 9 to 12 or 9 to 1, 9 to 2. So
TIE appointments, and you were supposed to be able to book them online. We tried. You're supposed to book them within a certain time frame. We couldn't get an appointment, and we finally like knocked on the door and shoved our way in without an appointment. We're like, please, we don't know why. They're like, oh yes, the website doesn't work. I think one, it is the siestas. I think siestas they take them seriously.
I know people live here and they don't care about the buildings, and I'm looking up all the time and I see old buildings and buildings from the 1800s and then churches from the 1400s. Like, it's bizarre, but that's like the happiness now. Like, that's where I look up like, wow.
And yeah, so now we're here in Spain.
And we are on. Hello, Kev. Hello, Kat. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yes, thanks for having us.
Do appreciate a lot the time that you took for this. I would kindly ask you before we start, or for start, to tell us something about your background. So where you are coming from and where you are living at the moment.
So we're both from small towns in the middle of the United States. The sort of small towns where like people never leave their hometowns. And for me, that was something I was always interested in. I wanted to get out as quickly as possible. It didn't have to be out of the country. It just had to be out of my hometown. I was just one of those people. And that was something I had told him on our first date was like, I do not plan on being here. So if that's going to be a problem for you, I think we should end it right now. Luckily he was, he was good with that. And then we hopped around. We moved to a different part of the United States and before we moved, and now we are here in Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah. We both kind of gone the traditional route. We both got our bachelor's and then master's now. And we went into the biotech pharmaceutical industries, and I'm more on the data implementation side, and he was more on the finance side. And just kind of worked our way up, climbed the career ladder, and we decided after we had our daughter, we're like, we need a change, we need to do something different. This wasn't as much fun as we thought it was going to be. And yeah, so now we're here in Spain.
So you went moving abroad with a small child?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want.
We like making it difficult for ourselves. So we decided to
After we just got all the baby stuff, we're like, let's sell it all again.
So moved abroad with a 1-year-old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, she was, 9 months at the time?
And,
Yeah, so she was just turning 1. So she was kind of out of the baby phase and moving into more toddler phase. So we felt like it's our chance to do it. Let's go. Yeah.
So first of all, you have all my respect. I have a 6.5 year boy, and I do know how he was when he was 1. Mm-hmm. So I would say you have all my respect again for this, because that's a huge step.
Yeah.
That only someone that has kids understand. Can I ask you from which U.S. state you are?
So, go ahead.
Yeah, we were originally from Missouri, and then we moved out to North Carolina and lived there for about 10 years before coming here.
And we really like North Carolina because, I mean, just in our neighborhood alone, we have 13 nationalities just in our little community. So we really felt like it was a great, diverse, our careers just really thrived there. We just were able to make easy friends because of all the cultures and different people all moving there. So yeah, it was a really great place to live. So I'm really glad we made the move.
I was due to my work and also due to private reasons because I love that state. I love North Carolina. I was in Charlotte, I was in Raleigh, and I was in Durham as well.
Yeah.
Amazing places.
Yes, we lived in Raleigh, Durham. I love that we were like so close to the beach and so close to the mountains. It was and the temperature, the weather was always great. We loved it.
Nice. As you see, I'm a Boot Barn fan, so I still have something from there. Yeah. You said you always have the wish to move abroad, or was it more the wish to move abroad, or was it more the wish to leave your hometown?
Probably both. For me, at least, it was probably both. Like, I was one of those people that like, I got to get the heck out of here as soon. As from a very young age, I was like, well, I don't really like living here. No offense to where I grew up. It's a great place. It just wasn't for me. But I had lived abroad before. I moved to France when I was a little younger. And then I came back, and our very first date was maybe 2 days after I had arrived back from France. And that's when I was like, nope, I will not be here long term. So I pretty much knew at that point it was going to be abroad. I just didn't know exactly where. I didn't, we ended up in Spain here, but that was never I have to move to Spain specifically. It was just I want to try something different, essentially. Yeah.
Because that will be my next question, because I kind of stalk your Instagram account. By the way, I'll link your Instagram account in the show notes description below. But I've seen first picture that you posted on your Instagram account was that why Spain, and the first reason was, I think, the visa. Was the visa or was something in the country as well?
It was the visa. The Spain makes it really easy to get a visa, frankly. We were debating between Portugal and Spain, and growing up in the United States, you do hear a lot more Spanish. And so that kind of eased, led us more towards Spain as well. But honestly, like with the different options we had, the visa was easier for Spain. Yeah.
Where are you actually in Spain? In which area?
So we don't ever give the city out, but we're in the Castilla y Leon region, which is, I think, one of the largest regions in all of Spain. If not one of the largest in Europe, I think, like the fourth largest or something. It's the least populated as well, or something. Someone was quoting me, telling me about how how few people actually live here in this region, but we really like it. Yeah.
Considering the fact that you have a small kid, you had a small kid when you moved, what was the grandparents' reaction when you said, "Okay, by the way,
you better start with that one"?
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, we had. My mom's side of the family wasn't too thrilled, but that's just because it was their first grandchild. So, well, I guess both my parents, it was first grandchild, but on my dad's side, it was taken a little bit better. And then as well as her family, it was just.
My family knew that they were like, oh, it was not a surprise knowing me, knowing I was like, I'm going to be out of here. I don't know where, that was not a surprise. So I think your family though is.
Yeah, it was just kind of mixed reactions. I think it was just because I never had any ambitions to move abroad and live abroad. I was kind of comfortable and happy where I was, but so that kind of led to my mom's side. I mean, they weren't upset or anything, but I think it was more of a shock and not having their granddaughter there for events and things like that. So
my thought was, we already lived in North Carolina. They all lived in Missouri. We were already long distance anyway. So we already had to take a flight, and we were already doing video calls. So at some point, does it really matter if we're a few more hours further away? I don't know. That was my thought to it.
The only thing that you have to consider extra is the time difference.
Exactly.
But besides that, it's the same. Yeah, you're right.
We had to make video calls anyway, so yeah.
Did you know someone in Spain before you decided to move, or it was just a spontaneous decision, still because of the visa process?
Well, I actually had a friend, a good friend who actually studied abroad here and lived over here for several years. And we just had this wild idea. I mean, it's just,
It came out of the blue.
it came out of the blue, and I was like, why don't we just live in Spain? And I don't know what brought me to that, but it was right before the holidays.
TV show we were watching.
Something like that. So I reached out to a friend. I was like, I think he was over abroad in Spain, and I reached out to him. He put me in contact with one of his good friends, and they gave us a bunch of options on how to get over here or what to do. And it just kind of came up, and then all of a sudden we're applying for teaching the program that we're on to be teachers and living in Spain.
They're the ones that put us in touch, like informed us of the program that we're on now. And they actually had some like technical issues, and so they delayed the application opening. So if it wasn't for their technical issues last year, we wouldn't have been able to be in Spain right now, because by the time we had found out about the program, it would have already been like open. The application process would have been already open and closed. So like it all just seemed to work out and align just so perfectly that we felt like we just got to keep doing this. And it's one of those things when you're ready to move abroad, especially like continents like that, like complete other countries, that it is scary. Like mentally, it's a scary process. You're hours and hours and hours away from your family. And it's one of those things you just start adding on, like, okay, we need to get background checks, and now we need to get this document and that document. You just, next thing you know, you're just so far along the process, you almost feel like you can't back out because you've already spent so much time and money invested in the visa process. And so it was one of those things where it's like, I guess we're going now. Like, we've already put so much time. I think we spent $1,300 just on all the visa documents that we need for the three of us. That at that point we're like, yeah, that's a lot of money. I guess we're going. We can't back out.
But was there a moment in the process when you thought, wow, this is getting too complicated and we have a good life here and we make good money and the place looks nice, so maybe it's not a good idea to move?
Yes, I think she had more of those ideas as they came up. I think once I had made the decision, I was going straight ahead for it, and then she had a lot. You had a lot of doubts.
Because I'm one of those people that talk a lot about moving abroad. I'm going to move abroad one day. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do, but I never actually would follow through. What I really admire about him is that he takes a lot of time to really think through something, but once he sets his mind on something, it happens. Like, he will go out and make it happen. And so when he decided that was going to be like, even though I had talked about it for so long, since the entire time we've been together, we never actually made it happen. When he said, okay, I'm ready to make this move, I knew it was going to happen because that's just the type of person he is. But as time went on, we both worked from home jobs. We made decent money that we never really had to worry about anything. We had 2 nannies, who were amazing people. We loved them. Our daughter loved them. It was so hard. We were a very comfortable life. So it was scary to kind of leave it all behind, and I had tried to convince my work to let me work remotely, and they were just not down for it. So it's just one of those things where it's the entire time, why are we giving up fully work from home jobs and, multiple nannies and this whole life that we have, and to do this. I think I started, even now here in Spain, I still panic. I'm like, what did we do? Why did we give this up sometimes?
But it's I have to say, judging from an Eastern European perspective, and I told you already, I'm originally from Romania, and judging from this side, I think that you left the American dream for an American dream, which is amazing just to say it. You had the American dream in the US, where you had the job, you had like you said, 2 nannies, you lived a nice job for a dream, for another dream that you had, and I think that's just as admirable. At least from my perspective.
Yes, thank you. We really were really fortunate. We really liked our jobs. We love the people we work with, and I would go back in a heartbeat. We were so fortunate and so lucky to really land, and everything. It just all lined up. It's just, it was just one of those things where honestly, after we had our daughter, I feel like that's what flipped the switch for us, and we were we need to do something different. We need a break. It sounds like the American dream, but we were also working 10-hour work days and 12-hour work days without easy. So that's why we had multiple nannies. But Yeah, we really liked our lives there. And I think we really like, now that we've been able to take a step back and live in Spain, we realize how much we actually did like our lives in the United States. It really was a great life. We really liked it.
So you decided to leave. You made all the required papers. You took the plane,
Hmm.
and then you landed. What was the first impression? What was the first thing going through your head?
I had absolutely zero culture, like, not, okay, I can't say culture shock, but I have no homesickness, nothing. I've lived abroad before, so this wasn't like a crazy thing for me. Like, I was kind of ready to hit the ground running. I think I was more with our daughter, just the time zone change. I struggled a lot helping her acclimate, and I think that really was hard on me, was her. Um, because we had never done, like, we've traveled with her, but we never really did a lot of time zone different travels with her just
Mm-hmm.
yet, because basically her entire life was prepping for this move. So this is the first big flight she's ever taken, and I went first, and I went solo with her, and my parents came with me to help. Thank goodness, they were lifesavers. Um, but he flew later, so I was kind of here on the ground getting settled, and so I didn't really have, I feel like, a huge culture shock or huge, like, anything crazy for me. I kind of knew what to expect. I knew from previous experience that the honeymoon phase does come to an end pretty quickly. Um, and so I was kind of prepared and ready for that. And I also knew more Spanish than he did. So I was ready to kind of like get going on it. But yeah, for you, it was different. But
Well, yeah. First impression on my end was we took months and months of Spanish classes, and she was doing really well. She had a Spanish tutor, and even for her and for me, the first thing is we get into Spain and we realize that we don't know that much Spanish after all the
all the time
lessons we
and
took.
money.
That was the first impression because we could not understand anybody or anything. That was the very first impression. But the good thing was even with that difference was the first thing that I noticed kind of after that was the people here and the help that they provided. They're
Incredible.
the Spanish people are just they're amazing. I mean, they'll help. They'll stop on stop in anything and just to help you out. So that was my one of my first impressions of just the people in the airport and other places just wanting to help you out. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. And even to this day, like, we just had this conversation today that as a new mom, I felt so judged in the United States. Like, we couldn't even take our daughter out to eat without people like giving us a side eye of, why are you bringing your child out to dinner? Like, why would you do that? Why is she up so late? Like, it was just a constant, like, you're doing something constantly wrong. And I don't know if you experience this as a dad, but as a mom, like, constant judgment all the time. And here it was like an automatic, like, just release of, like, I can just be a fun mom. I've never been able to do that. Like, I can be a fun parent here in Spain. I, Everyone has been, I mean, we just had this talk that it was on a bus back from we were just went out for a day trip, and some guy got on the bus and saw that our daughter was there and just gave us a little thing, like, tic tac sort of candy thing that could shake in a cup, and that was, without her crying, without, like, just anticipating that she might want that, and just giving it to her. And there was another lady who just gave her phone to watch towards the end of the bus ride. Another teenager just came up on his little electric scooter and was like, "Hey, do you want to press the buttons?" Like, that would never happen in the United States. Never, 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 never. Like, the only help I've ever gotten from another mom or from any other parent was in an airport setting, and they had very strong like, English accents. So they were very clearly from somewhere else helping me as a mom, like a mom to a mom helping me. And like, I almost want to cry, like, every day, like, just how, like, the stress is, like, gone. Everything I was stressed about is, like, it's just not there. It's just not there. Yeah.
This it's I have to say, I'm a bit I want to say a lot of things at the same time, but it's interesting how we get a different impression from Europe about United States, because everything that you see
Mhm.
and I always like to call the brainwashing in movies and the cliches that you see in movies. Everything looks amazing and everyone is helping everyone, and those communities are amazing. So you just see those people all keeping together, and everywhere you go, everyone is helping. And now you come with this opinion, and this is a lived opinion. This is not a story that is nicely told in a movie. This is actually a lived opinion, and that's really impressive. And I also want to say about the restaurant experience. I actually have a work colleague of mine from Germany who did a job rotation in Portugal. And the first impression that he had, so that you understand that it's not everywhere in Europe like this, the first impression that he had was, why are the kids up so late? Why? Because in Germany, everybody's going... in Germany, everybody's going... All the kids are going to sleep 7, latest at 8, and everyone is in bed. Why are the kids so up so late? And you realize that actually dinner is only starting at 8 and so on. So I think it's a cultural difference, and your experience is the Latino culture from Spain, which is more welcoming than I would say in
it absolutely is. But I will. We've had the worst trouble. I don't want to be doing all the talking, but we've had the worst trouble with eating because we're the same way. Like we had her down in bed by 7 o'clock every night. Like we are very much more like, I think we've talked about it. Like Spain's been really nice, but I don't know if it's like for us long term. And I think part of it is just that aspect. Like everything is so late. We've been able to eat one dinner out at night in public, like one dinner this entire time we've been here, because they put their, everyone's up so late and we can't, there's no food options available before 8:30. You're lucky, maybe 8. But our daughter just can't last, and like, nor do we really want her, because we've tried keeping her up later at night, and she sleeps worse if we keep her up later than if we just put her to bed at like 7 p.m. So like, it's just,
Been difficult.
Yeah, it's really the meal problem. I know you had this conversation with Laura in episode 1, and she's living in Portugal right now. But she's, it's the same way. It's like you get this much time to eat, and if you have a flight to catch, if you have a train to catch, if you have a child who happens to be sleeping late, well, that sucks. Like, can't eat.
Yeah, I think it's of course there are pluses and minuses in every culture. But I think this with the food is amazing. And by the way, thank you for watching the first episode. It was a nice conversation with Laura. But I think it's an interesting experience also for a European. Like Laura said, it was interesting for her. I was in a business trip there, and I want to go out to eat, and there was nothing open before. They said maybe you get some tapas before 8:30, but also that it's hard because the kitchen just starts and so on. So okay, just forget it. Before we get to the food, because the food is also an interesting topic, at least in Spain, I would like to ask you, how was the let's say the process of getting yourself settled? So you said you had the visa. I would guess the work permits as well. It's something that you got already in the US, but when you arrived, you still had to open a bank account. You still had to get maybe some work permit that had to be done physically. How did that process went for you as US citizens in Europe or in Spain?
The first part of it was just getting our visas, which where we were at in North Carolina, you actually had to go up to Washington, D.C. And so it involved us all going up, driving for 4.5, 5 hours up to Washington, D.C., have the whole interview and the appointment. And then we had to drive back. And then a week or two later, we had to go back up to get the visa
to pick them up
in person because they didn't have a mail option for that embassy. So just that part was kind of like
16 hours of driving round trip for a 20-minute appointment and maybe 3 minutes to go in, walk in, pick up our visas, and come back. Like, cool, that was fun. So that was that part. And there's not like there's a train, but it takes just as long to do that without, So the train systems aren't great in the United States, so it was easier to drive. And once we got here, that was actually, it wasn't as bad as I was expecting. Because, again, I've lived abroad before, but like, I think a lot of people, are like shocked. Like, oh my gosh, the paperwork and the immigration you have to do. Like, if you've never lived in that country before, like you don't, like if you're native to that country, you don't know how challenging the paperwork to move there is. You just have no idea. So I honestly didn't think it was as bad as I've expected before. There were little things like
The time, like they're only open from 9 to 12 or 9 to 1 or 9 to 2.
So yeah, you have to, if you, for some reason, we were teaching and we were working from 9 to 2. So if you can't leave your job, they're only open till that time. So it's not like you can come back later. That was a problem. There were just little things along the way. Like we needed an NIE number for our daughter. She didn't have that in her passport. And you have to pay a fee to get the NIE number, but you can't pay the fee without the NIE number. So it's like this big circular issue. Like you can't pay the fee to get the number. You can't get the number without the fee. Like that was one thing. And then we had our TIE appointments and you were supposed to be able to book them online. We tried, you're supposed to book them within a certain time frame. We couldn't get an appointment. And we finally knocked on the door and shoved our way in without an appointment. And we're like, please, we don't know why. And they're like, oh yes, the website doesn't work. I'm like, well, we had checked every half an hour from 5 a.m. till 11 p.m. every single day for like a week or two to see if like new appointments came open. You know, like, oh yeah, the website for our region doesn't work. Don't worry about it. I'm like, okay, cool. So it's just stuff like that. Like that was just the weird quirks of like, I feel like if they were Spanish setting up the systems, they don't realize the weird things. Like you can't pay the fee without the NIE and you can't get the NIE without the fee. Like you don't know that until you're experiencing that yourself. So if you're a government authority from Spain, you don't realize that's a problem that someone might run into until, you're doing the process yourself. So it's just those little things. But I ran into issues with that in France too. But I think it's pretty common anytime you move abroad from somewhere else. There's like those little things.
Yeah, I mean, at the end, they also are connected somehow to the culture, right? Because they are relaxed. Like it's okay.
The website doesn't work. Like, oh, okay, thank you.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Like we know it. Everyone knows it. It's all good. But I think that also makes the fun of it, right?
Yeah,
when you get adapted to the new
culture.
culture.
I think if you don't try once through some type of immigration process, you're doing it wrong.
Correct. You're absolutely right. I'm fully with you. And not only that, but also the follow-up. So somehow, I don't know if I said already, but I made the same experience. Like in Germany, you cannot open a bank account without an address, but you cannot get an address without the working contract, and for the working contract, you need a bank account. So
I ran into that with France too. Like I can't rent until I have a bank account, but I've totally experienced that.
Exactly. But I think that's why I think that this experience are important to realize that everyone went through them and to see that of course there is a solution. You just have to find the right person to insist a bit and say, okay, I have to get out of this issue, but at the end, everyone is going through the same. And the people living in the country, they don't know these issues because they always had everything. They always had a bank account. They always had, so it's easier, right?
Exactly.
How was did you find an apartment already before leaving US, or you had a hotel?
We ended up hiring a relocation expert out of Madrid. And she was like, oh, don't worry, I can help you from there. I just reached out. I found her through like a Facebook page of people relocating to Spain. And I was like, I know you're in Madrid, but would you help us outside of it? And so she was the one who kind of made the contact with us. And we had a 35-pound dog, which is about, 14 kilos? 14, 15. So, which is, she said, was like a larger dog. He's like a mini size in the United States, but like a miniature size. But that's like a decent sized dog here in Spain. And so we just kept running into issue after issue, trying to find an apartment with a dog that allowed.
Yeah, we had a list of like 1 through 10 of spots, and we ranked them in order because these are the openings that are in our town. And we were like, okay, so we ranked them all, and all 10 of them did not allow dogs.
Yeah. Like they didn't put that in their listing.
They didn't put it in the listing, but yeah.
After she started reaching out, and so at some point we're like, do we just not take him? Like, because that alone was a whole expensive process. I mean, it probably cost us $7,000 in total,
Yeah, a little less,
a little
but
less to
yeah.
move him over, and the stress for him to move our dog over was a lot. So I'm like, we don't want to spend all this money moving him only for us to not even get an apartment that allows him. But otherwise, like, it would have been easy to find an apartment. It was just the dog.
Yeah.
But I'm sticking out to the dog topic because I think it's quite interesting. Did the cost was so the cost was so high due to the fact that you had to do a lot of tests, a lot of vaccines, or was just the transport?
Yeah, it was more the transporting. We went through a relocation company for the dog. We thought that would be we thought at the time that would be easier, that they would handle everything, and that would take a lot of stress from us moving and clearing out our old house and moving and all that stuff. We found out that it was kind of a waste of money, and by the time, I mean, they helped us book flights and things like that and get vet appointments, but I had to actually do a lot of the legwork, which kind of made the third party option worthless. But
I think we almost had to go with them, didn't we?
Well,
Because
yeah.
we flew, like, Lufthansa is like the best premier flying with dogs like company.
But you can use their third party.
Yeah.
We used a separate one, and we probably shouldn't have. And just some things that you kind of learn when you move a pet and move abroad. You know, the things that come up, but you kind of have to spend it because we have to move our
Well,
dog
that was the
over.
thing. We don't know if it was going to be a year or if it was going to be longer, and we didn't want to leave him with family and then it end up being like a 5-year stay, random places in Europe, So yeah, so we're like, we don't really want to, just essentially give him away. He's our baby, he's our firstborn baby. So we wanted to make sure he was here with us. So it was worth the cost.
Yeah.
It's always in these cases you don't talk about money. I
Yeah.
mean it's the same discussion when you have expensive hobbies, right? You don't do them because you make money out of them.
Mhm.
You do them because you enjoy them, and I think it's the
Exactly.
same. We talk about feelings, and you cannot say, okay, it was too expensive, I don't know if it's worth it. I think
Mhm.
it's important if it brings you joy, then and it was worth it for sure.
Exactly. Yes, he definitely lived a better life in the United States for sure. He had his own yard. He went to a doggy daycare. Like that's the difference between living in the United States and living here is our daughter is treated so much better as a child here in Spain. And our dog was treated so much better as a dog in the United States. People would come up to him and just, I want pets, I want pets, I want to love you, I want to, like, let me know if you need me to dog sit anytime. Our daughter, we don't care. I don't want to have anything to do with kids. I don't like completely ignored, which is the complete opposite here, where it's like everyone wants to like, oh, little mono, which is like little monkey, and they don't care anything about our dog. So it's funny how it's like completely reversed, and our dog definitely lived a better life in the United States. So
That's definitely interesting. So I wouldn't have expected that, but crazy,
oh yeah,
crazy
doggy
strange.
daycares and everything. It's a big business with dogs.
I'm living. I know America through. I know the United States through movies.
Mhm.
I'm sorry for this, but I know this dog sitters that it's a well-paid job. Then whenever you look about side hustle and stuff like this,
Mhm.
everyone's saying do a dog sitting business or do a dog walking business
Absolutely.
because everyone is making a huge amount of
Oh,
money
yeah.
out of it.
Oh,
But
we spent a lot of money over the years.
okay, that's interesting as an interesting culture difference at the end, right?
Yeah. And I think it goes back to like people are just having less kids, and part of that is, kids aren't necessarily as like welcome to places. So people see like, well, why would I have kids? I have to completely stop my old life. Versus here in Spain specifically, well, I can still go out and enjoy my life. My kids just gonna come with me, and I know that is the same in like many places in Europe, but especially here in Spain, where it's like, well, they're just gonna come with me. And in the United States, I think it's very hard to stay in contact with your old friends. It's very much as you are now a parent. This is now what you do. Like you can only really make parent friends, and you only talk to people from your kid's school. Like that's just who you are now. Like, yeah. And so I think people are like afraid of that. And I think that's part of why we were like here. Like,
But I think you're making
yeah.
I think you're making a great example. for parents, for wannabe parents now. And I'm pretty honest when I say this, because to take this leap, this huge jump that you took with a 1-year-old, it's amazing. And as I said, it proves that it's doable. And if you just want to live your life, to continue to live your life and enjoy your life, maybe not 100% like you did before, but you can still take your kid with you, and take your kid with you until it's easier to take him with you, because when he's 1, 2, 3, it's easy. It's still easy to take him with you, and so on. So I think you're making a good example here. I have to say, really nice, really, really nice. So you landed, of course, like I said, you solved the legal issues. Finding did you try to find the daycare for the kid?
Yes, I can't tell you, that was one of the part of what the catalyst was of moving to Spain was I was having panic attacks on the floor of our kitchen, because I went back to work within 3 months, which was, I think, normal, or even longer, which is a long time in the United States. And my body, my hormones were not ready. I was having panic attacks on the floor. There was like a 1.5 year long wait list for daycare, for childcare in our area in the United States. And on top of it, they were charging $465 a week.
Yeah.
So like almost $2,000 a month. And it's just one of those things where it's like all of this was kind of like happening all at once, on top of the fact that like I had the chillest, easiest pregnancy and birth ever, and I got a bill for almost $10,000. And so I was like, all this was happening like within 1 week, and I was having a panic attack on the floor. And I come here to Spain, and instead of having to go through, how many places did we tour? In the United States, like 3 or 4, we had to tour them individually, get on their each wait list. You had to pay a fee to be on their wait list. You had to pay a fee to be on their registration. So we're paying multiple fees to hopefully get into some place. So that's why we had the nannies in the meantime, because there's such a long wait list. Here it's like, fill out a form and we'll let you know. And normally childcare and schooling, you sign up in April, I think it is. And it's like a first come, first serve, like first selected option. And because we were kind of like the exception period, we applied at the end of August. And so a lot of places were already filled, but it was just one form we filled out, and they called us and be like, okay, we have a spot for her here. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like compared to all the wait lists, all the fees, all the, everything else we had to deal with in the meantime in the United States, it was just like one form, no fees, and it's completely free because it's a public childcare. So like all those things that were adding stress to my life in the United States, like why I was having panic attacks on the floor, just don't exist. Just don't exist. Yeah.
That's so kindergarten generally, so all the daycares and the kindergarten in the future as well. I think it's a general problem everywhere in at least in the countries that I know. In the episode now, everyone will realize how early we are doing this recording. But in the 4th episode that is coming tomorrow, we have Charlotte, she's living in Australia. She's originally from UK, and she had the same awful experience in. First of all, finding, but second of all, the price of that kindergarten. I think she sent something like $100 a day or something. So,
I think that's one of the things that the perk, because I will 100% say I think there's 2 Spains. I think there's the Madrid and Barcelona and high expat communities of Spain, and there's the very remote Spains. And they're the remote Spains that are dying in population. They're the remote Spains that are easy to get apartments. They're the remote Spains that are, they're happy to have people move in with a young baby. There's plenty of spaces for childcare. Like that's the Spain we live in, not the Spain of, expats shooting this cost of rent through the roof. That is not like I truly do feel like there's 2 different types of Spain. And we're fortunate enough to live in the area that's like, not a dying population, but I think that's part of why they've been so welcoming as well, is because they have plenty of room. It was easy to find an apartment, easy to find childcare, easy to find, because of all of that. Yeah.
And I have to say, you're making a really good point here, Kat, because the everyone, everyone that you talk to, not you, but in general, when you talk to someone, everyone's talking about Barcelona, everyone's talking about Madrid. If you talk about Portugal, everyone's talking about Lisbon.
Yes.
Everyone's talking about in Spain, Costa del Sol, so Malaga, all
Yes.
the area from Marbella, all the area from southern Spain. But nobody's talking about this rural country Spain, which really needs people to move in, because I think you are enjoying the real Spanish life there. You are not enjoying the expat experience, or like you said, maybe the digital nomad experience from Lisbon as well. But you're enjoying the real country, and you have a lot of options that you don't have in the big cities. They are happy to have you, and they're giving you a better experience. And I think that's a really good point that you're making.
Yeah. I think that happens everywhere. It happens in the United States as well, where we moved from our hometowns, and people are leaving the smaller towns. People are leaving the rural communities for better job opportunities. That happens all across the world, I think. And if there's other people from other countries who maybe want to settle in those rural areas, like, I think that's part of the difference of, I don't know, there's big pushback for expats in Spain, I think, in a lot of areas as well. But like, not everyone wants to live in Madrid. I certainly don't. Like, I'm happy to be out.
You moved from a big city from US. Why should you move to another big city?
Exactly.
It's the same experience.
I've done it. I don't need to do it again. I just don't want to have the stress of the childcare issue. I'm happy to live in a rural country, in a rural area. I just don't want to do it where I was from.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'm always giving the example to my friends about Riley, which is I know it's a big city. It's a great economic center in the area, but it's something that I think 95% of the people in Europe never heard of, because it's not in any movies. It's not in anything crazy that was there in Europe. It's an economic center which is working, making a lot of money, but nobody heard about it.
Oh yes, in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Exactly.
A lot of money,
So
yes.
yeah, as I said, I think for everyone that wants to move abroad in any of the countries, they should try to find amazing places which are not so popular, because I think there everybody is happy to have you. And like you already said, Kat, I think in the popular areas, of course, the expats are not welcome anymore, because they have tourists, they have expats, they have everyone pumping up their prices, which they're not getting happy about that.
Exactly. And my theory is, it's like, if you're tied to a job that's on the ground, then yes, you can't choose where you're relocating to. But if you're one of these digital nomads that can move around anywhere, why do you have to pick one of those areas? There's so many amazing. I love our city. I feel like there's so many amazing small gems in the middle, in so many parts of Spain, and there's really no reason for everyone to kind of conjugate to one area that's really driving the prices up. I think if you had the choice to work wherever you want, like, why would you not? Why would you want to be? I don't know. That's me. I know I'm not a big city person, so I don't know.
So you arrived. I do make a guess and say that I think that not a lot of people were speaking English in the small city of Spain, or do I do think I was right. Did you manage to make connection with people, neighbors, I don't know, parents, other parents in daycare? Did you manage to build a bit of community around you?
Yeah, I think it was tough at first. I mean, still in our kind of our apartment complex, everyone, you get they're friendly, but no one speaks English. I mean,
not that we're expecting them to, but
no,
Absolutely.
Sometimes you run across it. But what the good thing was is at our schools, we each had English teachers there who were really good and could speak really good English. So they've been kind of our sources to go to for things around the town. And even though we kind of knew some stuff, they've helped us not only with our Spanish, but also to kind of get around and to be able to do things and to see things.
Haircutting places, and if they're going out for something, they'll invite us. So the teachers, I am so glad, because we almost didn't do the program. We almost just did like a non-lucrative like retirement visa. And I'm really glad that we didn't, because with the program, they put you in touch with other people who are also teaching English. So that alone has been like a great help, having like other English speakers from, well, not even English speakers. We have someone from France, someone from the Philippines, someone from like, so there is a kind of like a built-in expat community that they try to put us all in touch together. But then also our teachers are big helps with the more like local integration.
They were able to help me out and even call them to make an appointment for our daughter, for a pediatrician appointment, because they speak Spanish and over the phone.
Everything wants to be all the appointments, they want them over the phone. So so they've been same with my coordinator at our school, and that's why I'm really glad, because we were debating doing the non-lucrative like retirement visa or not. So I'm really glad we went with the program. It's NALCAP, North American Language and Cultural Assistance Program. So essentially it's bringing native English speakers into the classroom to help them with their English. And both of our coordinators at our school and just other teachers at our school have just been absolutely so amazing integrating us with like the local community, because the program itself, you can meet other people from England and the Philippines and France or whatever, but and those are great. They're great, amazing people. I'm glad we did that. But like having people locally, like, has been amazing. Really amazing.
Because and you're right. It's maybe 95% Spanish, maybe even more. I mean, there's just no English at all in our little. To
the point where like one of the English teachers in my school was like, "There's one other English speaker here. I'm going to see if I can put you in touch and see if I can find someone who knows them, and you could be friends together." And there it's few enough that like if you walk on the street and you hear it, you're like, oh my gosh, okay, let's be friends,
You're becoming the, let's say, the eccentric one, right? Because but it's nice that they want to help. I mean, that's the most important at the end, right? If it would be one thing to point out, one thing that you said, okay, I think we have underestimated this, what would be that one thing that pops into your mind?
Underestimate. I think
it wasn't the visa process for me. I can tell you that it's not the visa. Like doing this before and messing up enough where like I was climbing over mailboxes to try to get my visa. That's a whole other story. It wasn't the visa. I was expecting it to be a lot. I think part of it is we're big foodies. If we want to talk about food, we're big foodies. We like going. We spent a whole day when we were in Japan, like just doing food tours and sake tours, and here it's a small town, and you get what you get in a small town, like you would get in a small town anywhere. It's not like the fusion stuff that you might get in Madrid or something.
Big paella dishes.
It's not
all this. It's not exactly that in where we're living. It's like country home style cooking, and they use all parts of the pig, and it was kind of an eye opener, because you just see Spain and this ham and this cheese and this rice dishes and great wine and tapas and all this, and it's slightly different than what we had expected. So I think that's one of the things that we're like, we deeply underestimated.
We struggle a little bit with the food, I'll be perfectly honest. And I that honestly, it's like I hate to make that the deal breaker.
Not a deal breaker, but it's just something that's it's been very tough, and we don't get to eat out very much anyway with a 1-year-old and eating past 8 p.m. So that's kind of been of a challenge too. That
I think so. With those two things combined, we have to time it perfectly. Of okay, when can we eat lunch? Lunch is the only meal we get, and where is that place going to be? And is there anything different than just croquetas?
Yeah.
Like, not to like bash too much, but like it's just one of those things where it's like 95% of the restaurants have the same food, like, and sometimes they just want something different. And we are very fortunate living, like I told you, like we have 13 nationalities just in our neighborhood. Like we would come over and we could have,
Indian, you could have Mexican.
We could eat something different for 2 full weeks straight without even trying, And that's where we went from. And I would say we weren't even from a huge city in the United States. It was just like an average sized city in the United States. We went from that to this, and it's just, we're having a little bit of trouble, especially people who really like to eat.
I would say an average city in the United States that is bigger as any of the big cities,
Yeah,
or the same
exactly.
size
That's
as the
true.
big cities in Europe. So,
Yeah, very true.
but it's an interesting aspect because that's something that you again is one of those things that when you have it, you don't realize it, and when you don't have it, you miss it, right?
Mhm.
So it's exactly that thing. As Kat was already saying that she was not she's not so she was not so impressed or not so shocked about the culture at the beginning. What was for you the biggest cultural shock that you had? I would say, except the fact that not so many people are speaking the Spanish or in the English, or not so many people were speaking the Spanish that you learn in the Spanish classes.
Yeah.
What was something that you think, wow, this is something I didn't expect?
Well, I mean, there's probably a few things. The one thing that because I'm a big, soccer fan or football fan, and I watch it, and I watched the Premier League from, United States, and I watched a lot of other leagues too that came on, and in the United States you have like, these supporters, like the Chelsea supporters at this bar, and you can go there and watch it, and it's cool. Like they have all these different stuff, these bars and grills that have all the games, and at least in our town, and even in some of the other places.
Tell her about Salamanca.
Well, yeah, because I went there, but like where we're at, there's no bar and grill, there's no game. The only game that they'll ever show is maybe Real Madrid versus Barcelona, a big game in its own deal, but they don't show any other games. We do have a local soccer club that sometimes they'll be on TV, but not everybody just goes to the bar and grill, sports bar, and watches.
Yeah.
And I actually went a few weeks ago to Salamanca, which is a really good college town, and they have these. Well, it's more than American, bar and grills and stuff. And they have signs on their doors that's like, oh, we show all the leagues and the soccer games and all this, like Irish pubs. And then I go in a couple, and there's no games on at all during the scheduled time. So
it was called the Liverpool bar.
It was like a Liverpool,
and the Liverpool
tavern,
game was supposed to be on, and they weren't showing it on. Like, why would you call it Liverpool? Like, I don't know.
So that's probably one off the wall. That's like a culture shock that just like you just expect, like especially a country that loves soccer, football, and I can't find it anywhere where people are like actively watching it, and I guess they're just
Together in
watching
a
at home.
community.
So
Yeah, like we've tried because we really are big. We like watching sports. Like that's a big thing for us. And I was over in Amsterdam during the World Cup, and so all the bars are packed, watching the TVs, and and here it's the complete out. Like, is there even a TV in this bar? This is like the most sports bar place you would get, and there's not even like a TV. I'm like, where do people watch these besides, I guess, just home?
I have to say, on the other side, I was completely overwhelmed in a sports bar in the US because I'm not able to keep up with all the TVs being around me. Like you can see every possible. Exactly, you can see every possible event happening at the same time, and that's something I couldn't handle. So, but what I can say from the German experience as well, and what I can say from what I lived here, they are leaving football in the stadiums, and the places where they have a huge team or a big team, and not even a huge team, they are leaving their moment inside. And unfortunately, I don't want to say the hate because it's a hard word, but the competition is so hard between the clubs that they are not so. Even if Real Madrid is playing Valencia, nobody's watching it in Salamanca because they don't care. Like, and I'm coming from. It's weird, but it's like this. So I'm coming from Romania, and when I moved to Germany, first I had the experience that were 3-4 clubs playing in the Champions League from Germany, and I realized that the fans of one club was not supporting the other club, even though they are coming from the same country, because they are against each other. And it doesn't matter which competition. So
I didn't think about that. Yeah, because for us, like, we don't care really who's on TV.
Yeah.
We'll watch it. We know. Yeah, like, and you've experienced U.S. sports bars where, yeah, like you said, like there's 15 people, like we just like having something on. We like watching it. We like experiencing, especially if it's a big game. Like we may not even be supporters, but it's apparently a big game, so let's get together. It's like the Super Bowl, right? Like how many people watch the Super Bowl? No one really. I mean, you might be fans of the two teams that happen to be playing, but really it's about the party, and you're really just there to get together and watch the game, and you're really just there for the camaraderie, not necessarily about who's actually playing, you know?
And exactly, that's the opposite in Europe. I think that's the opposite everywhere. There is competition because everyone, they are just against each other. That's it. So I realize also that American football is made for TV. Like all the long breaks, you give the options to have commercials, you have the options for me to go. So that's, if you think about soccer, is like 90 minutes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like
you get half time to move. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What was so you said football was a disappointment. I can understand from the sports bar perspective, but what was a local tradition that you grown to appreciate in Spain? What's something that you haven't had in US and you haven't seen before you came to Spain?
Yeah. Okay. It was Three Kings Day. Like, you do know what was Three Kings Day? Yeah, the Three Wise Men Day. Like, in the United States, we were just talking about this today. In the United States, December 26th comes, Christmas music stops playing. People take down their Christmas trees. It's done. It's over. We're done. Move it on to the next holiday. Let's go. Get back to work on January 2nd. We're done. And here I love that the holiday spirit drags on. Like there's more time to enjoy it, more time to enjoy time with family, more time to enjoy the gifts you've received at Christmas, and then Three Kings Day comes, and because there is that now, I think it's a very big overlap. I don't think 20 years ago they celebrated Santa wasn't a thing, but now, or like Papa Noel, but now they have both. Like, and if I was a kid, obviously I'd be writing to both. Like, I can write to the Three Kings and get a gift, and write to Santa and get a gift. I'm doing it both, But I love that, it kind of really extends the holiday spirit a little bit more, especially into like the new year where it starts to get gloomy and sad and depressive, and it kind of carries out that excitement a little further. And the fact that they do it so big, the parades, and it's just so well done. Like the makeup, the hair, like everything that they do for the parade, just like everything is it's just the build up to that is just incredible. Like it's amazing. Like the Three Kings parades are just absolutely amazing and just completely not celebrated. I mean, I grew up Catholic, so we go to church on the Epiphany, but that was not something that like wasn't a big deal,
This is something that I just wanted to ask you. Is religion, because Spain is a I would say a Catholic country, but not only that, but I would say it's a powerful the religion has a lot of power in Spain. How is it this in comparison with US? Do you have the feeling that it's different? It's more religious in Spain, or is it somehow the same?
I've had this talk to someone before, and in the United States, I think people make religion their personality. Like they have in their bio, Jesus follower with a cross inside, and they can't make a comment on Instagram without being like, well, this is because you don't follow Christ, is it? Like everything is it's just shoved down your throat, frankly. That's what it is. Like if you don't follow,
it's exactly from all the wrong reasons, because everyone is saying that in fact religion has to be something private and for you, right?
Exactly. And I think, and that's part of why I stepped away from my religion, like in the United States, and coming to Spain, I've actually fallen in love with it again, because a lot of these traditions are built around the Catholic faith, but they're not in your face. Like, okay, we celebrate, this is our tradition, this is our culture, this is part of who we are because of that. Like there's the Easter celebrations and everything, but it's not like, it's not like, well, why don't you go to church? Because there are multiple people I know that, well, why don't you go to church on Sundays? You should be going to church every Sunday. Like, it's just, well, maybe I just want to sleep in, okay? It's completely different. I think it goes hand in hand with why, this is going down the political aspect a little bit, but I think a lot of people really value churches in the United States as their political source, you know, instead of other countries who expect their government to take care of them in different aspects. In the United States, they really value their churches to take care of them. Like if they need help, they go to their church for, you know, they need help paying their rent that month, or they need help with this, or like, so they go to a church to cover those things versus the government.
Is it somehow a community binder, the church in the US? Because it looks like this from the outside.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I would say so. A very community, and I think there are some communities that, like, if you choose to walk away, like, then you're completely kicked out of the community. Like, it's very much you have nowhere to go. Like, a lot of people who maybe they're in this is really getting deep. But if you're in like a, you know, abusive relationship, but you're part of this church community, you feel like you can't leave because that sometimes is your job. You work at the church. Sometimes, you know, you're married in that church. Your whole entire community is built around that church, and they frown on marriage. So you can't walk away from an abusive marriage because your whole lifestyle is built on the church. And that's part, I think, you know, and I think that's why people vote against so many. You know, they want freedom, they want less taxes because they want their money to personally go to where they support, what they fund, and that is the church. And I think that's why I was a little like, I want to get away from going to church in the United States because I felt like it was more like a cult instead of an actual like personal following. And here I feel like I can actually go to church and like I feel like it's more like my connection with my faith instead of feeling like I'm obligated to go for XYZ reason, you know.
I've seen this extreme example in the Young Sheldon and the TV series.
We laugh all the time at that because it feels like home.
You never think it's real. Like you think, of course, it's exaggerated. Of course, it's more than it is. But when you tell the story, it's actually Mary Cooper is real. So
yep. Thanks, mom and dad. They might watch it.
As my mother was saying, what would Jesus do?
Yeah.
What's so behind besides the let's say the events that are happening around and the feasts that are happening around the regions, what's something about Spain that people should know that you think it's not so known about the small community in Spain, about the Spain culture? What's something that you think, okay, it's something that I've seen here, but I think nobody or not so many people know about it.
That's tough. I think one, it is the siestas. I think siestas they take them seriously. And you think, oh yeah, siesta, nice little nap. I'm all down for that until you're trying to run errands, until you want to just like eat at a different time, until you're trying to get paperwork done at a government office. Like all of a sudden you're just like, it truly is like we're walking home from school at like 2:20 and the streets are crowded, and at 2:30 done, dead. You can't go out. They even turn the fan out of our apartment off. Like it is dead quiet. Like I hope you expect to do absolutely nothing. Because like I came home from school, I'm like, oh, it'd be nice to really work on a project or like go down to the library or go to a cafe and like work on something, and like nope, everything's closed. Hope you don't plan on making any productive. Don't do anything. You can't be productive at all between the hours of like 2 and 4 or 5. Like, yeah.
I think siestas is something that nobody understands that haven't been once in Spain. Nobody's able to understand the real impact of siesta, like the real impact that everything is dead.
Like, okay, but also here's my thing. If you are a worker in these small towns, we live across from a government building. They have to go back to work. How can you really enjoy, my theory is like, how can you really enjoy time with your family from like 2 to 4 to 5 when I still have to get back into my work clothes and go to work? How can I really like sit down and enjoy my siesta if I have to like constantly thinking, oh yeah, I need to work on that presentation when I get back to work until like 7, 8 p.m. Like,
it kind of gives you the feeling of 2 working days, right? Yeah, because I always said that, like you have a working day in the morning and a working day in the afternoon.
Yeah. Like when I get home from work, I'm like, get me in my comfy clothes. I just want to relax with my family. And there it's like, I get home, But oh yeah, I'm still thinking about the project I have to do. I still have to get back into my nice clothes. Like I think the reality of it is like people like want to move abroad and want to like live in Spain or whatever. And like Madrid is different because they do have to work. Like a lot of people do work with like global companies that have different time zones. But like in the small towns especially, like who wants to do that? Who wants to get back into your work clothes? Who wants to get like who wants to go back into an office after spending like a couple hours at home? Like not me. I just want to like knock it out, be done, and go home, you know?
Do you think you'll ever get to enjoy the siesta after a while?
With
I
the
think
1-year-old?
yeah, well, the 1-year-old, it's tough. We've gotten to the point. I think just the other day, our daughter was tired, and she took a nap during the siesta time, and I think we actually took a little bit of a nap during that time. Like
That's the first time.
it was like the first time. So I don't know if we'll necessarily. I think we've gotten to the point now where we've just accepted it. So
That's just a quiet time.
it's a
that you
quiet
just-
time, and we actually kind of use that time to go out on walks, and nobody's really out. It's
Mhm.
rather kind of nice and
Yeah.
peaceful. So
If you guys will stay home, we'll take advantage of it. So yeah.
I think it's something that when you grow with it as a child, and then of course it gets in your habits. But when you come from outside, of course, with the 1-year-old, it's hard, it's tough, and you sleep in every moment when he or she is sleeping, because
Exactly.
it's your bonus card that you cannot avoid or cannot miss.
Yeah.
What about the hobbies that you had in US when you moved to Spain? So I do guess that one of your hobbies is traveling, right? Because that's
Yeah.
that's something that is quite obvious from your Instagram account, I must say.
Mine
Uh,
is easy. I like hiking and I like walking and doing things. I can do that. We live right on the Camino path. Like, good. I'm covered. You though?
Yeah, for me it was, and this probably led to a lot of not just the homesickness, but kind of the real struggles the first few months, because I had a really nice garden and kind of like a raised bed garden, and I was growing peppers and herbs and all sorts of vegetables, and I was growing that, and I come to an apartment with no outdoor space and no room to grow. That kind of hurt me a little bit. And then I had like a nice like grill and smoker, so I could cook different sorts of meats and things like that. And I love doing that. Couldn't do that here. They don't even. I mean, I haven't even seen anybody use a grill. And then like I enjoy kind of the outdoor activities, like I'd play like softball or golf or those types of sports. And yeah, I mean, I don't even know if there's a golf course within
I think there is.
100
There might be.
miles, but
There might be one.
but yeah, so it was just kind of that was the shock to me that it was like, man, I really miss those things, and the things that I kind of those were my hobbies, on the weekend, just being out and grilling and we're kind
Tending
of
to your garden,
outdoors and
yeah.
in the garden, and
We're outdoor people a lot. Like we had a really nice like screen and porch and yard, and like again for like the dog, he loved that. We really like being outside. So like being in the Castile region, which gets cold and dark and miserable, and there's no outdoor space. Like it's really been a challenge, I think, for both of us, but especially for
probably
you.
especially me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
And have you find something to replace that you didn't have in US?
I think, well, not really. If that's the easiest answer, I've tried to get into a little bit more reading, a little bit more. We've been working on some projects, kind of some move abroad projects. So
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to get myself involved with that. I've kind of actually just used more time to just be with my daughter when she's awake, and kind of just play with her more, which I love doing. But when you have those other hobbies, you kind of fill that time. So yeah, I've kind of done that, and
It's shocking how much a 1-year-old like she can't hold her attention long enough to like watch a movie or do a task by herself, but she wants you to be there with her. You can't just like leave her by herself because she'll get into something. So it's a shocking amount of time spent with her.
yeah.
There is a saying in Germany: small kids, small problems; big kids, big problems. So
True. Yeah.
I can only say, wait for it.
Yeah.
Don't just wait for it. It will come. Uh, um, but I think, Kevin, I think that's a really important part when we say, okay, it's kind of hard, and there are some things which are not that as marketing presents them. Like it's not always milk and toast and honey by such move. And I think that's really nice when we say it like this, because that's, I think, important for everyone to know that yes, there are some things which you win, but there are also some things that you have to leave behind you.
And there's plenty of people that have gardens and that golf all the time. It's just at this phase right now, we don't have a car, and like, we can't live out in the outskirts necessarily. So like, just, maybe one day you could play more golf, but right now, just
Exactly.
with this phase of life, we just aren't,
You said about grilling. I do guess that grilling, not only the cooking part, but also the eating part, was something that you enjoyed a lot, because that's also belongs there. But even though you said at the beginning you struggled with finding dinner places and so on due to the fact that everything is open so late, I do still want to ask you if it's that. What's that meal that you learned to love in Spain?
I would say, well, I like paella, and I know that's so typical, but I just like, and I'm not a big meat or fish person either, so I just like the vegetarian part. But like, I freaking like. I think it's a good dish. Like, I really, really like it. But I don't know if you can think of anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more what I've learned to kind of love about at least where we're at is this is like a really where we're at is a really big cheese area, and they have lots of different cheeses, and I've actually that and some really good wine, which is in some of these places, and I've actually learned to really appreciate those more. We actually went to a place and kind of had a wine tasting a month or two ago, and so I've come. I think that's what I really love is more. We've had the same teacher I was talking about. She recommended me a place that had really good chorizo, and really good ham and cheese and wine, and so it's kind of like those things that I've learned to love. It hasn't been an actual meal. The paella, yes, but it's hard to find in this area. It's more in the south. So, I've learned those kind of things. The cheese and milk and those different things are. I mean, they're superb here.
They're really good, and of course, the Iberian ham is like famous.
Yeah.
But when you combo that with this amazing cheese that I didn't really think Spain was really necessarily known for, on top of the wine, like you have this amazing little charcuterie board for dinner. I'm happy. I'm good.
I think one of the important things that is not so known, or maybe it's known, but not on this level, about Europe, about Spain, about Italy, about France as well, is that in fact that the meals are quite small, and they are not so let's say they're a bit more diverse, but the flavor inside them. So if you take a piece of cheese and you combine it with the perfect kind of wine, then it gives you an experience that none of the meat and fish or whatever can give you. And I think that's something which is impressive. It was for me the discovery like this was the olive oil. So when you really get a good olive oil, only on toast, on not toast, but the toasted bread.
Yes.
It's a crazy experience. So the bruschetta in Italy, it's a crazy experience. And you say it's nothing; it's just bread and oil, but it's just
flavors,
gives you.
Yes, exactly. The simple, like I think when I first lived abroad before, like that's what I've learned was like the simplicity of everything was like that was what attracted me to moving abroad again, was like it wasn't just the food that was simple either. It was just the lifestyle. Everything's just a little more calmer, a little more chill. And that means, also like you just make food at home just a little more, simple. And like I just like a tomato salad, like I hate tomatoes. And like for some reason, like here the flavors are just incredible. I don't know.
Yeah. I think the like you said, the complete world, the big cities are living in this insane speed. Like everyone wants to do a lot of things and make a lot of money. And I like this Spanish saying, "No pasa nada." Like
Yes.
this is the perfect sentence to describe the Spanish culture. Like, yeah, chillax.
Don't worry
Like,
about it.
we have
Yeah.
the time. No,
Well,
no, nothing is
it'll all
happening.
work
Just
out. It will, yeah.
exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. Um, you said already that that living abroad changed your perspective, Kat,
Hmm.
on life, and I think for you both the big change was also leaving home because that's the most the first moment in which you are leaving your comfort zone, right? Where you pack to your stuff and you leave, move to a new city, and you think,
Hmm.
okay, we are on our own, and nobody's there to come and save you and to rescue you, so you have to deal with everything that's
Yeah.
coming.
Hmm.
But how big of an impact had on your life, on your let's say, how does the perspective of life has changed for you due to the fact that you moved, uh, first of all in an out of home, let's say it
Hmm.
like this, and after that, in another country.
Okay. Well, out of home, like, I think there are so many living in a small town. If I wanted to go into the medical field, because now he works in the pharmaceutical industry, but if I wanted to work in the medical field, my options were like a nurse and like a dental hygienist or something to work on my teeth. Like those, I felt like those were my options. So like moving away, there was a whole other industry of pharmaceutical development and biotech and like all this other like just that industry just quite literally didn't exist where I grew up. Like that just, and so I felt like I had gone to university for something completely different and I had kind of merged my way that way. And for me, it was like just eye opening of like just moving to a different state, just moving, like the United States is huge. And if you can't find a place you like to live in the United States, there's something wrong with you, frankly, because there's something for everybody. and and that was the thing is like this place was amazing and it was like a whole other world, frankly, compared to where I grew up. It was so different. Um, and yeah, just like it was a whole other like eye opener experience. But yeah, good to do.
Just opportunity. I think
Mhm.
that was probably the biggest thing, that the perspective change of just opportunities and where you could take your life or your career, just by moving out of a small town. So,
Mhm.
and then as far as country, I mean, you had lived abroad. Um,
Mhm.
you had lived abroad, and I've never, I've visited a few countries, but never lived abroad and never lived away. And it just, I didn't think I could ever do it. And then with the help of her and kind of getting most of the things kind of figured out and settled, and it just made the process, she just made the process so easy to kind of just come on in and just kind of hit the ground running and just enjoy our time. And I think that Spain has been such a, for me, the perspective and kind of the change is not only just the lifestyle, but just the way that the family and the traditions and the friendships and the things that people go out of their way, and how great the people are, especially in where we're at. Not to say it's not everywhere else, but where we're at just made the transition so easy so that it makes it enjoyable every day.
Mm. Yeah. For me, like this was yeah, like I said, like I had lived abroad before, so it wasn't necessarily that. Like it was like people in Spain are obviously amazing, but I think the first time I moved abroad, I definitely grew up in the like America's the greatest country in the world blinders. And it's true. Like you think they're brainwashed. I'm telling you, it's real. Like it's
Told
real.
you.
And you go abroad and you're like, oh, what? I can go to the doctor's office and not have to pay anything? Like, I don't know what that is. Like, and even now to this day, we go to the doctor's office. I always sit at the office, like at the receptionist, like before we leave, like, am I good to go? Do I have to pay like 600 euros or like what am I doing here? Like, what am I okay? Like, what can, and like it truly was like eye opening of like, wow, look at the trains. Like, wow, look at like, there's a metro system here. Like, what is this? Like, it's I was truly that naive. Like, I was that little like small town girl who like got out of this country for the first time, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's like other things. Like, it completely flipped my political views. It completely flipped like it completely changed my life, and that was why I went back and had our first date was like, I am not living here. And I don't care if it's within the United States, which it ended up being not long after. But I told him, like, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not living in this small town again. And I think it really did, like, set us on a complete different life path because I did that before my eyes were opened. And yeah. And then I was like, okay, even I'd be happy to move back to the United States. I really did enjoy your life there. It just was not going to be there.
I think that's an important topic. What you said, that once being abroad, somehow your world is opening, and you realize, oh wait, the world is not as small as my city, as my country. The world is huge, and I have to discover a lot of things. And I think the biggest growth, and that's something which was obvious there already for you, Kat, and now I think it's obvious for you both, is that you realize, you know what, we can to go anywhere. Like that's nothing to stop us. That there is no, the sky is the limit, right? Because there's nothing that can stop us. We can do this. We did it already. So I think that the huge personal growth that everyone has after this kind of
The
move.
confidence you gain. And like I left something that was comforting to do something scary. I got through that entire visa process and I survived. I learned how to set up my utilities and I made it through and I'm paying them okay. Like, you work through all these hard things and you're like, okay, what's the worst that happens? I get back on a plane and go back and try to find a job, which is what the game plan was originally anyway. Like I didn't, I was probably going to job hunt anyway. So like, what is the worst that could happen? It's not like I gave up my citizenship. It's not like my family doesn't exist anymore. I can go home and see my family. I can go home and go back to my home city. Like the worst that can happen is like buy a flight home.
You said about the job, Kat, and I think that's a topic that I would like to address. Did the moving abroad reshape your career goals, like reshape the way in which you think about the job?
I think we both were a little burnt out working like 10-hour days. So we needed a setback to be like, we were truly just like, you leave jobs every 2-3 years, like that was just kind of standard. I feel like in the US, like you just kind of job hop. And it was the first time we sat back and like, are we even like going the route we want to go? Like, or have we just been hopping because we got a better offer and we just left? Is this actually what we want to do in the first place? And we've never had a chance to do a gap year. Like gap years are not common. Like you graduate 18, you go straight to university, and then you have so much debt after you graduate, you have to get a job. So you're stuck working until, you're 67. So, it's just one of those things where it's like, if we don't force a gap year to really reevaluate our careers now, we may not have a chance again. So I think we both needed this time away. And just in a few months, we're like, yeah, actually, we really liked what we did. And we were actually really freaking good at it. And I think like we would both go back, maybe not the exact jobs, but like the industry and what we were doing. Like now that we've taken that step back, it's like, yeah, actually we really liked what we did. But in the moment we were just kind of like overwhelmed and burnt out and had a newborn and there was a lot going on. But now we're like, yeah, we would go back. And I wish more companies offered sabbaticals in the United States, because I think this is exactly what we needed. We need a setback to be like, yeah, I want to keep working and I have more energy than I have ever had in my entire life. I've been able to have this break and I'm ready to go back and I'm excited to go back. So I think, but our companies didn't allow us to take a sabbatical. So we'll have to be job, hunting after this. So we'll have to figure out what to do next. But, whether it's here or I don't know, Thailand or wherever we end up, but like we really like the industry we were in. We like the jobs we were in. Like it's just that it took us that setback for us to realize, like, yeah, I loved it actually, and I want to go at it again really hard.
At the end, it's always the question about enjoying the moment, right? So if you realize that in the period of the amount of money that you make, that nothing that is happening there is enjoyable for you, and working like 80 hours a week, it's maybe not healthy and not on a long term. That's more you realize, okay, we have to do something to change what we do.
It definitely is giving us a thought to think like, okay, we really liked what we did, but next time, like we're gonna have this like a little more boundaries, I guess.
Yeah, I said in the episode with Laura as well that I think that at least in Europe, the western side of Europe is working to be able to live is not living to be able to work only. Because if you look at the eastern side of Europe, most of it is there where they are, and also if you look about side of parts of Germany, there everyone is living only to work. There is nothing else beside it. And I think what Spain, what Italy, what Portugal developed is like, I think there is another side that can make you happy.
Yeah.
It's always depending on the place that you take your value from.
And I think that's the thing. We're very fortunate to live here, but we are very much career focused. And so we actually like the appeal of Germany. We really like the appeal of like those countries that work a little like this is a little slow for us. I think like cutting back as much as we did was a shock to our systems and probably the break we needed. But it's hard for us to ease this much back. And I think like it's hard. It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, we're ready to dive back in. And it'd be hard for me not to work 10 hours a day again, but I'm going to try to be better.
Yeah.
Correct. How did the relationship with your family develop in the let's say the period where you are living in Spain, or since you are living in Spain?
I think it's been pretty similar to what we had with what we had when we lived back in North Carolina. I mean, we were having video calls, and the only problem is you can't just hop on a flight and head to see us. It's got to be more planned out logistically. So it does feel, at least for me, a little bit. It feels like you just miss them a little bit more, and but I think other than that, I think it's we've done our best to send pictures of our daughter and of us, and just try to stay connected as best we can. Video calls once a week, and just trying to make this as close, make it as close as we can distance wise. We've had her parents have come out, and so yeah, we've just tried to keep it as close as we can, so that when we get to the point in the spring and summer, we can kind of reconvene again.
Sorry, I'm talking slightly.
No worries.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like, if anyone's worried about moving abroad, why don't you just try across the state or try across your own country? See how you feel about that. I think that's a good test run to see, like, can I even handle being away from family this much? Am I truly going to miss them so much that I need to be back? Like, there's no point of going through the whole visa process and all the money and costs and scary, process that entails to get over there. And then 2 weeks later being like, ooh, I actually don't like this at all. So like just moving across, your country sometimes gives you a good perspective of, I can actually handle moving abroad and being away from family and my friends that I know and having to like kind of restart over.
Yeah.
There is something that I had a really big push to ask also Mariko in the last episode, but now I have the same push to ask you. Is that the healthcare is something that I see so often and I hear so often, and every budgeting discussion that you see from any US YouTube channel, everyone's talking about put some money on the side for health issues, because if you have an health issue, your whole saving accounts will go bad. And I want to ask you, said for the birth you paid about 10,000 euros, even though you had nothing, like it was a natural birth. How expensive is a normal visit to a doctor? Like you go to a doctor for a regular check. Do you have to pay?
If it's your regular annual physical, like you don't, like you were expected to come in just to make sure you're healthy that year, it should be free. Should be. Most of the time. I would say though, I think if we would have to go in without expecting to, we easily 600.
Yeah, between 200 to 600.
Yeah, probably that. Yeah. And that's my thing is the United States really is a great place to live. I really do like it. I think you can move social classes really quickly. There's a lot of opportunity. I do really like living in the United States. So I'm not going to be one of those people that completely bash it. There's a really good opportunities. I think, though, it's a great opportunity when you're healthy and when you're single or married, but without kids. Like the minute if the minute you find out you have cancer, the minute you get into a car accident, which could be just suddenly, your life switches on a dime. Like one car accident could send you bankrupt. Like you might be just so very financially prepared, but one health accident could just completely bankrupt you. So it's one of those things where it's like the minute you start thinking about having kids, that's when you're like, like, I don't know if this is because kids are sick all the time. And that is a whole other level of, it's just one of those things where it's like, I truly do think the United States is a great place until a certain point, until you reach a certain health age, or until you hit a certain point, like in your health, that's like things change. And sometimes that's unexpected. And that's not a place you want to be. You don't want to be backed into a corner before you have to make a change.
That's a crazy piece of information to handle for everyone living in Europe, because everyone here has national healthcare, and in one shape or way, everyone is covered. And I think that's
part of why
unthinkable.
we're in Spain is because I need some major dental work done, and I was quoted. This is insane. I have not officially had it handled in like 9 years after they've been telling me I needed it, because it was going to be close to like 50 grand. And then I've had 2 doctors that say it's actually better if you just move outside the country. 2 out of the 4 I've seen had just like, it'd be better if you just move out of the country for a year or 2 just to get this handled, because 50 grand is probably the starting off point with the insurance you have. So this is like after insurance. This is after I pay for my insurance. This is like on top of all this. So that's part of why we're here, is because we have like a list a mile long of like healthcare needs we just want to like take care of in case we do move back, including my dental. Like we just need to get taken care of. We kind of want blood work done, maybe some other thing. We just want to like make sure we're good in case we do move back. Like we've covered the first half of our years. Let's see if we can make it to retirement. If just like let's cover our bases here.
It's crazy. Like when you say 50,000, and it's most probably for not something major, and it's a huge amount of money. And in any way you think about it, it's a lot. But
yeah, exactly.
and it's your health. It's your health, right? It's the thing that impacts your happiness the most. So
exactly
crazy. To switch from the serious parts, because we are getting too sad, and I think that's not the purpose of it. Please tell me a fun experience that you had since you moved to Spain, because I'm pretty sure due to the language issues at the beginning, due to the misunderstandings at the beginning, you must have had an event that you thought, okay, this is something that it destroys us off. Maybe it kind of was cringe and interesting at the beginning, but now it's funny to remember.
Okay, for me, it was, so when you say like Happy New Year, which is very recently, it's a very new year, you say, Feliz, a lot of people cut off the nuevo, the new. So Feliz, like happy year, essentially. And if you know anything about Spanish, if you got rid of a little squiggly line, it goes from year to butthole, asshole. So you want to make sure you're saying Feliz Año in the proper way. Because if you don't say it properly with the right Año, you might be saying happy butthole.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a really good one. That's a really good one.
So that was very recent.
Kevin, do you have one?
I probably have a couple, but I think I know one of them was we were out to eat, and I think I thought I had ordered what was like chicken and rice, and I thought I had ordered something like that. The waiter was quick, but I thought I had known my Spanish. I really want that. And I got, I think it was like a pig snout, like dish, and I don't know, some other parts of the pig and this rice and vegetables.
We're eating, I'm like, it's kind of rubbery chicken.
Rubbery. It was not chicken. It was not.
Pollo isn't that hard of a word. We shouldn't have messed that one up.
Yeah, it was a bad meal experience from that, but
we haven't eaten that dish since.
So I have to give you a heads up. So you have to be careful when you're navigating Europe because there are a lot of countries in which they eat pig testicles,
Yeah.
and they call it they give them different names, but they are still the same, and
Same thing.
it's not a good experience.
Yeah. I mean, props to them for using all the parts of the meat, but I just, or all, yeah, whatever of the animal, but whew,
Yeah.
man, I struggle.
Yeah, exactly. It's a struggle,
Yeah.
like you said. Talking about food? I think that the thing that I haven't asked you, what's the most exotic thing that you had since you are in Spain? It's something that you thought, okay, I would never have something like this when you are in US.
Honestly, I think it's that. It's like, the rice here is like they make sure they put like all the parts. It's like, I thought it was like a paella version, which maybe it is, but they use all the parts of the pig, and it's like the cartilage, and they're like, oh no, grab this and you suck it out, and I'm like, listen, I'm here for the rice, really. Like, I can't do this. I really am not that big of a meat eater anyway, so like,
No pasa nada. No pasa nada.
Yeah, well, there is a part of like the pig cheek, I think the pig cheek or the neck, that's actually really like when you fry it, it's very close to like bacon. And I think that's, we never
This
had
isn't even that
but-
exotic.
No, it's like,
Normal food.
yeah, normal for some and
So
most here.
I
For us, it's
I had
exotic, and it's like, oh, it kind of tastes like bacon, but that's rather exotic.
We were in Japan and we had one of those like over the grill like things in the table, and there wasn't like a normal piece of meat on the menu that we could tell at all. So we were just like, I don't even want to know, frankly, what it is. Let's just order it and eat it. So that might have been the most exotic experience ever. But here in Spain, I feel like that's pretty timid.
I have the experience since when I was growing up. My grandparents were always killing a pig for Christmas, and that's why I know eating all the parts of the pig is normal. So
Yeah.
I grow up with this. What are your friends from US asking you about Spain?
Mine's just always, I'm a big talker. So my friends have always known this was going to happen. It was just a matter of like, is she actually going to follow through with that? So they were just asking like how it is. And I have one of my best friends is a Spanish professor. And so she always travels to like different parts of Spanish speaking countries all the time. So, and another friend of mine like majored in Spanish. So they're all planning like a book club trip here, so they can all work on their Spanish together, and we try to speak Spanish together now, for them to like keep up their Spanish as much as I use it now. So they're really not only supportive, but they actually want to like utilize me as like, okay, let's all use this as an excuse to work on our second or third languages so we can.
Is there a Spanish expression that you are using between you guys when you speak? Like, is there something which entered your vocabulary so hard?
This is just an embarrassing one. It's not anything we've added. Well, okay, caca. Because when you learn Spanish or a language from a book, it's not like you learn childhood phrases of like words. And our daughter comes home and is like, caca, caca. And I was like, what is she saying? Caca, caca. I was like, oh, she took a dump. Like, you don't learn that from a textbook.
Yeah.
Just those little things. And then, like I had sworn up and down, no problemo was a real thing. I had never actually seen Terminator, which apparently is where it comes from. I just thought that's how you said no problem. And I had been saying that to people for months. And until for some reason I like looked up in Google Translate. I was like, oh, that is not how I said no problem. They must have just been looking at me like, what is wrong with her?
Oh, that I left. So that this way the kids, it's it's crazy. For us was also the diseases that you have as a kid. This hand, how's it called? This hand, mouth, foot,
Yeah.
like this. I didn't even exist. First of all, I didn't even know it exists before I had kids, and then I had to learn it in German first, and then I thought, okay, is that really something that you make, but that you can get for sure. And it's even worse when you're a big boy. But
It's like having kids
um,
is like a whole other level of learning a language that you weren't expecting, because not only is she trying to learn something, like you could tell she's trying to say something, but we're still not sure, like, is she saying that in English or is she saying that in Spanish? Because we still don't really even understand her English because it's still
so
such newish words.
I
So
I
yeah.
have I have to say there are always three things which are underestimated. The amount of viruses that the daycare is able to combine. This is something that is underestimated
Yes.
because I think that's the perfect incubator for every
Yeah.
virus combination. I think they don't need any virus improvements and developers. No, they should just put them in the daycare. That's
Yes.
easy. When the kids are getting bigger, I think an completely underestimated topic is the amount of batteries that you have to buy for all the toys that come without batteries.
I was so surprised.
That's the that's something you learn. And the third thing, when you're in a new country, the thing that you don't know if your kid is speaking your language, that is speaking the other language, that is you don't know exactly what he wants to say, but it's getting a mix of everything.
Exactly. And words that we don't even know, like the caca thing. I'm like, I didn't even know this. You may learn the proper terminology, but like the kid terminology is a whole other level. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's something that I want to say about the kids development, and I think for your daughter is going to be the same. You realize that the easiness, the I don't know if that's the right English word, but the way in which she will be able to learn new languages, it's going to be much improved when she will be bigger because of growing with two languages already.
Exactly.
So that's something that we see as well with our boy. It's he's understanding the words in different languages by making some connections only because he grew up learning or speaking two, maybe three languages as well.
Exactly. Yeah. I know. I'm excited for that. I hope one day she corrects her Spanish. Like one day she'd be like, no, that's not how you say it. And I'm like, good. This is exactly
Kat,
what we're here for.
Kat, that's not an amazing experience. I live it. It's not so amazing as it sounds like, right? So my kid is speaking English. As you see, my English is not perfect because it will never be. I'm not native,
Yeah.
so and he's correcting my English, and that's not the feeling that you can. It's funny at the beginning. It's funny.
I'm
It's
like,
really
oh.
funny, but then it's not funny anymore. Oh, guys, that was a lot of fun for me. But before we wrap this up, I would like to ask you my standard questions that I only have usually. Why would someone consider Spain to move in or to?
Okay. I think for two different reasons. I think if you have kids, it is truly an amazing place. Especially if you came from like North America like us, where I felt like a lot of stress all the time. It's just the ease of parenthood. It's just a weight lifted off your shoulders. And also, if you're retired, I feel like you get to age with not only grace, but fun. You get to have fun here. Like, this is an amazing place to retire. And I can imagine just living it up as an elderly person. Like, it just seems like such a fun place. So like those two perspectives, like, so in total, like, you could live your entire life here in Spain and just be so happy. I think you could really, really enjoy it.
Yeah. And I think it's the slow kind of pace of living. I think that, a lot of times, especially if you're on the East Coast of the United States or in some of the big cities, there's always this rush and you're kind of in a hurry. And I think all of Spain, for the most part, you get a little bit in Madrid or Barcelona business wise, but most of the country is just, it's laid back and it's slow paced and it's family and it's tradition. And I think if you're looking for those things, I think if you're looking for just a slowdown of life a little bit, I mean, Spain is the perfect opportunity for that.
Now I have to ask another question. Kat, you said retirement.
Yes.
And what I've realized in the US is that actually Florida is the retirement state. That was my feeling, at least, when I visited. Why is Spain better than Florida?
I like to joke that Spain is the Florida for the British. But maybe not. Maybe that's more Portugal. But I do think the amount of hurricanes that you get, I think you're really in the dangerous grounds in Florida compared to Spain. But also you have to think about as you age, you can't really drive a lot of places as you get a little older. And there's great public transportation options and you can walk more places. So I think the healthcare as well. And I cannot tell you how many older ladies I've seen here who have purple hair and blue hair and just pink. And sometimes they dye it straight silver, like bright silver. It seems that they love being able to dye their hair because they're not trying to dye their hair back to their original color. No, we're not young. We're not trying to be young. We're enjoying our life as we are as older people right now. And I love that. I think it's just a great experience. And I think if you're thinking about retiring between Florida and Spain, they seem to have a little bit more life to them here.
So, first of all, you won the date with the joke from the beginning. I never thought about UK, but it's actually you're right. So everybody's going to retire in Spain. But I think there are two important things that are worth mentioning. So first of all, the prices in Spain are the cost of living in Spain is much lower than the cost of living in Florida.
Yeah,
that would be the first thing. And I think an extremely healthy perspective that nobody's mentioning is that you are able to walk a lot, which is extremely healthy at your age because it keeps the muscles running or the blood flowing through your body. Guys, where is home?
I don't know. That's the big thing to figure out next, I think, is I could live out of a suitcase and be happy. He, on the other hand, likes to be a little more established. We go back and forth because if we go back to the United States, I don't know if it'll be North Carolina next time. I think it'll be a little closer to his family, who have moved since to a different state. So
yeah, I don't know yet. It's right now. It's just temporary, and
if anyone can figure that out,
that's why we're here. I think we're here to figure out where our next home is going to be. So
yeah, we're honestly open to possibilities. And I think that was so great with okay, we're leaving this life behind and there's unlimited options, there's unlimited opportunities, and there's unlimited choices now. Instead of just being stuck to where we were, now we have any country, any city, we have the possibilities. And if we decide to go back to the United States, then I am happy to do so. I'm not opposed to it at all. So yeah, it's just one of those things where we're gonna hopefully let the universe tell us where to go next.
It's an amazing answer. Because actually that's what you feel, and I think it's amazing that we get to admit what we feel, and that's something that everyone should do. And guys, I do appreciate that a lot. Yes. When now you are parents, but still I like this question because I like to think about this every once in a while. When have you realized you are a grown up? When have you realized that the childhood is over?
Probably since we knew we were going to have a child. Before then, when you were pregnant, I think that's when you kind of realized, okay, life's real now. We're going to produce a human. And then after the birth, it's okay, now it's this real human being in your arms. I think that was the thing. And then probably and then another kind of reminder of that is just when we first got over here, because I was away for 2 or 3 weeks not seeing her. And so that was just weird in itself. And then I get over here and she still remembers who I am. And, it was kind of nice. So that
I don't feel older. I feel like I could jump out of an airplane tomorrow, go zip lining, and I could be,
Well,
I could be completely happy. And now I just have my daughter and I can bring her along for the ride.
Maybe it's worth saying a few words because I don't mean older
But
necessarily,
yeah,
and I don't mean
as
older
an
actually. I just
adult.
mean I know.
Yeah.
I just mean that is that moment you realize, okay, my life is in my hand, and there
Mm-hmm.
is no
So
one
true. Mm-hmm.
to fall onto. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have to deal with this, and like Kevin already said,
Mm-hmm.
you are already responsible for another human
Yeah.
being, which is all in your control. Like, and that's what I mean
Mm-hmm.
by grown up.
Yeah,
But
that's true. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, what does happiness look like for you for now?
Mm-hmm.
I think now happiness is just these moments, the little moments that you get that we have during the afternoons and when she's done with school, playing with her and with our daughter and just having us together going on walks like in Spain and you're like, I know people live here and they don't care about the buildings and I'm looking up all the time and I see old buildings and buildings from the 1800s and then churches from the 1400s. Like it's bizarre, but that's like the happiness now. Like that's where I look up like, wow, even though the weather's 35 degrees and cloudy and miserable, it's like, and it's wintertime, you still look up and like, I'm in Spain and I'm walking the streets that have been here for, centuries, and it's that to me is the happiness that I live right now, and that this is why we came over here to do that.
I think like going forward, I will always be happier because I know that on my deathbed, I never regretted taking the leap to make a big, a move abroad and to spend more time with our daughter and together as a family. Like I will never have to wonder what if. Like I can go back, even if I do go back to the same exact life I had in the United States, I will always be happier knowing that I had this year together with them.
That's nice, and Kevin, I fully get what you say with the old buildings because I think the first 2 or 3 years living in Germany, I was always walking like only looking up to all the old buildings and all the incredible architecture that nobody from here is appreciating anymore because it was always there. Like
It's life for them.
exactly. Guys, before we completely wrap this up, I need my recommendations from you. So in which order do you want? I would like to have either a song or a band, a movie, and then a book at the end. And if it's possible from both of you, if not, then from both of you together.
I mean, I prefer book first, but
Book.
Yeah, book if you can. Book first. Okay.
Feel free.
Okay. I recommend the book Die with Zero. That is kind of the book that set us on this trajectory. We were those people like just saved and invested a lot. We tried, we didn't know exactly what for, but it kind of put the brakes, told us like, take a minute, enjoy where life is now, spend the money you have today, doing things you can while you're healthy, while your daughter's young. Like that's kind of was like, you don't need to die with $1 million. Die with zero. That's the ultimate goal, is to spend money, because money is worthless if you aren't actually putting it into use right now. So that's kind of why we're here in Spain, I feel like, is part of that book.
I would say probably what the Alchemist.
Yeah.
I think that was
The Alchemist. Mm-hmm.
The Alchemist.
Who wrote The Alchemist? Paulo. I don't know.
Paulo Coelho.
Yes.
Paulo Coelho.
Yeah. I think that one got me thinking of moving abroad and living over here. I think that kind of started once we decided that's what we're going to do. That was the book I was reading, and it was just like that kind of kicked off everything.
Mm-hmm. So yours is definitely more like introspective, and mine is more practical.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I know Die with Zero. I actually know both of them, but I read as well Die with Zero, and I was impressed by that book.
Yes,
like
the
examples,
mm-hmm.
the examples that you have in those books are just like mind blowing.
It's
Yeah.
true, but it's true. Like, why, there's no reason to pass on your money when you are older. When your kids are 60, they don't need the money. Then they need it when they're in their 30s and they're trying to establish a family or a new business. Like, I loved everything about it.
I think the biggest lesson learned that I had is that you should help someone when they need to be helped,
Exactly.
not when you want to help, when you can, because when you can, maybe they don't need it anymore.
Exactly. Yep. Okay.
Next, either movie or song or band.
I'm not a movie watcher, so I thought about this, but I don't. You might skip me on this one.
I understand. Like with the 1-year-old, you are allowed to. Movies is not a priority.
Movie, yeah, it's more just shows, but
yeah, we watch a lot of TV shows. And can we flip that and say instead of movie, can we watch a TV
Of course.
show? Okay. Because I will say,
yeah.
part of the biggest influence, I think, is the TV show that started this whole thing, that started the conversation with a friend, was House Hunters International in the United States. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, where you pick 3 homes and and it's always like a game. Oh, should they pick number 1, number 2, and you get to see what apartments or homes look like in the Netherlands or in Thailand or whatever, in Canada, like, so you're seeing this, and that's what we were watching when we saw Spain. And I think it was somewhere outside of Valencia, a small town. I don't know. And it was like, that one. Let's do that. And that's what's kicked off the conversation.
We'll go with that, because movies would probably just be an Adam Sandler movie, and it's.
I mean, so that works as well. So comedy is always good, right?
Yeah.
And I'm asking about songs and bands as well, because I said in one of the previous episodes I've been to since one of my last visits into North Carolina. I'm into country, because you cannot get out of country. Anytime when you start the radio, you can find at least 10 radio stations that are playing country, and I learned to love it. I learned to love Luke Combs. I learned to love Jason Davis. I learned to love a lot of them from there, and that made me realize again, like with the whole world which is opening, I realized there's a whole world of music that is open, and I always stayed in my small bubble from Europe, because of course this is the easy one, right? The popular songs and so on, and that's why I like to get recommendations now.
Well, I'm not very good. I like Queen from, the 70s and 80s, and then obviously Taylor Swift. So I'm no help there. I'm not like, I'm like this cool new band's coming up. No, I'm very basic white girl over here.
Bands. There's a band who was locally to Missouri. We went to go see
Smiths and the Saints.
No. We went to see them live.
In the Red Theater.
Yeah. Nathaniel
Radcliffe. Okay.
Nathaniel Radcliffe and the Night Sweats.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Night Sweats.
They actually had a popular song that was on the radio. I think did really well. They feature a lot of different musical instruments, and it's kind of pop. I don't know what's the word for it, but
a little rocky,
kind of hipster rock.
Nathaniel Radcliffe and the Night Sweats. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Thank you very much. I will search for it. And talking about TV shows, I realized that I have a recommendation for you, because now you are living in Spain. There is a Spanish TV show. My advantage is that Romanian being also a Latin language, I do get to understand a lot, and we had a lot of telenovelas back then in Romania. And my family was looking at a lot of them, and you kind of hear the Spanish left and right, and I get to understand a lot of it. And there's a Spanish TV series, I think it's made by Antena 3 from Spain, which is called Aquí no hay quien viva.
Okay.
It's a TV show. It's about a community in an apartment building where you have every possible combination inside. So you have the old lady, you have the old lady living with her sister, you have the family with kids, it's one of the funniest series that you can see, that you can have. So, and it's not popular in the world. I think most probably it's known in Spain. So if you ask in Spain, most probably everyone knows it. But it's it's a humor that you can only know if you have lived in an apartment building in
Yes.
Spain. So
And I have the telenovela app downloaded. I've just never logged in, so this is my excuse.
don't do it. Just search for Aquí no hay quien
Okay,
viva.
okay.
It's something that I can. So most probably it will help you improve your Spanish as well.
Yeah.
But the story, the humor inside it is just amazing. I still remember one expression that we are still using with my wife. No sonoras. Like there was an old lady who was every time coming outside in front of the building and screaming "no sonoras" every time when someone was making noise in the evening. Like so it's a nice it's a nice Spanish TV show. Aquí no hay quien viva. Guys, I enjoyed this a lot, this conversation. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to know you and to show your story. I think it's an amazing one. I think it takes a lot of guts to do the leap that you took, the leap of the huge leap, the huge step that you took towards Europe. And thank you for telling the story here in the Whereabouts.Their podcast. And I do appreciate a lot the fact that you allow me to tell your story.
Yes. Thank you so much, Paul, for having us.
Paul.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
Thank you as well. Have a nice one, guys.
You too.
See you maybe next time in a few years from a different
Yeah,
country.
it's always fun. Yes, we'll see where we're at.
See you guys. Bye.